Hey everyone, welcome to Comedicine. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Boston. I'm so happy to be here. We have our first chiropractor, everybody. His name's Dr. Michael Friedman. He's my neighbor now because he is a stand-up comedian in the Ottawa area, also a chiropractor. We get into some really interesting things. We talk about the controversy that is loading the dishwasher. It gets a bit spicy, guys, I'm not going to lie. And we also talk about a crazy client of his who complained that he was a comedian, which I have never heard such a thing, and I am shocked. I am shocked that this happened. So get into this episode with us. We're so glad you're here, and I hope you love Michael as much as I do. Dr. Michael Friedman, it's so great to have you here as a guest on Comedicine.
It is great to be here, Sarah.
It's great to meet you too. I can't wait to meet you in person. I'm getting closer because when we had a false attempt, we had some major technical disasters. Because we had to put this whole thing on hold. Kiwi the dog had to go for a walk. It was wasn't our day. But since then, I have moved to the Ottawa area.
Welcome.
Thank you. I know one of these days we're going to end up doing comedy at the same time, at the same clubs.
Yeah.
Cannot wait for that. And the other thing I'm really excited about is you are our first chiropractor on Comedicine. So I'm trying to get
an honor.
All the healthcare professionals on here. So yeah, it's great for us to have a chiropractor here. So I always like to talk, the first part I like to talk about on Comedicine, I like to talk about everyone's day job in medicine. Mm-hmm. So, as much as you want to talk about it or as little as you want to talk about it, but if you can tell us about what your day job is when you finish school, and what you're doing on a day-to-day basis as a chiropractor.
Sure. So I graduated chiropractic school in 2001, and I went to school I grew up in Toronto, but went to school in the US, in Dallas. And then I came back to Toronto, but didn't want to be in Toronto at that point. So I'd never been to Vancouver, but just always I felt drawn to it. And so I graduated and decided I'm going to just move to Vancouver. But my brother was getting married, so I had to wait till that was over. But so anyhow, January 2002. So I just moved to Vancouver and started practicing there, and it's been 22 years.
Yeah. So when did you come to the Ottawa area?
I came in August. I guess I started work here in September of 2008.
Okay. That's cool. All right. Well, I also like to ask people, why did you become a chiropractor? Why did you go into this area of medicine?
Why? So I was always interested in helping people in some sort of healthcare. And because I'm sure we'll get into the essential tremor that I have, I knew anything involving surgery was out. And it wasn't until I think when I was 16, my mom was in a pretty serious car accident, and she ended up going to a chiropractor. And I still didn't know much about it. And then about 3 years later, I think I was 19, I had this really bad episode of low back pain that I was incapacitated, couldn't get off the floor for a few days. And so she sent me to her chiropractor, and I don't know, it just jived with me and it helped me. And I noticed all these other improvements in terms of I had this jaw problem. The jaw was always locking, and that went away. I had some digestive issues that seemed to go away around the same time. And so I thought, this sounds pretty good.
Cool. So, and then why did you end up in Texas?
I just liked what the schools in the States offered.
Okay.
More than, because there's only one school, one English school
right.
in Canada.
Okay. Is that in Toronto?
It's in Toronto. Right. And, I grew up in Toronto. I did my undergrad in Toronto.
So you just want to change. So, and what was that like living in Dallas in the late 90s or early 2000s? What was it like in Dallas at the time?
Dallas was an interesting, so I actually started at a school in Minneapolis.
Okay.
And I was there for 2 semesters, and most of the students were from, smaller Midwest cities and the Dakotas and Iowa and Nebraska, and didn't really feel much connection with them. That we had a class of, I think 70 or 80, and there were at least 10 to 12 people in the class who would keep a wad of snuff in their mouth and a spit bottle on their desk.
Amazing.
So I was like, this is not really my scene.
Oh, see, okay. And then you transferred to Texas?
And then I transferred to Texas. There was a chiropractor I became friends with who did a locum at my chiropractor who had just graduated from the school in Texas.
Okay.
And so she strongly pushed me
Okay.
towards her alma mater.
Oh, that's cool. That's good to have a recommendation from someone.
Shout out Dr. Pam.
Yay, Dr. Pam. That's really cool. It was funny because I was thinking going like from Ontario on your way to Texas, like stopping in Minneapolis would be like a starter, like it's like starter America.
Yeah.
It's like America light, but maybe it's not. If there was like I grew up in Saskatchewan, and so I definitely, the chew is in Saskatchewan.
I had two guys in the Minneapolis class from
Oh yeah, because it would be close for them.
One of them was interesting. I was the first Jew he's ever met.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry for laughing. My mom's heritage is Jewish too, so it's funny when you're in places where it is rare. People are like, I've never met a Jewish person. I remember I did some comedy in New York. I went on a trip to New York, and I have relatives there. Like my mom's Austrian Jewish, and during the Holocaust, they kind of went everywhere, but most of them went to New York. I kind of missed out on being a New York Jew. And doing comedy there's so many Jewish people talking about being Jewish, and like I'm like, oh, Jew stuff. Like this is so I was like, because I'm not religious.
Resonated.
Yeah, but I'm not really religious. I didn't really grow up with that culture. Yeah, that's my Jewish joke. I say I didn't grow up with a religion or culture, just the intergenerational trauma. That's all I got.
The good part.
That's the great part. Yeah, the awesome part of having no family. Yeah. No. Well, that's cool. Well, it sounds like you have a pretty sunny outlook towards living in Texas. It wasn't scary or...
Yeah, it was, it was a little more metropolis.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, Dallas is not really, from my experience, was not really like Southern,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
There's a lot of corporate offices there.
Okay.
And so there was a lot of transplants. Very materialistic, I would say.
Just like the soap opera?
At the time, I heard a stat that it had the second highest rate of plastic surgery outside of LA.
Okay.
So this was in the late 90s. So there was, Dallas had the big hair and the big boobs.
Yep. It's weird how that's regional, hey? Like I find that strange is because like when I practiced in Florida, I was in northern Florida. And if I had a client from Miami, like I knew, they'd come in and they'd be a lot of bling and a lot of hair extensions and like Botox and lips and boobs. And then they'd be like, well, it's like 5 hours or something from Miami. And they'd be like, well, I drove here from Miami. And I would always be like, yeah, I know. Like,
no kidding.
I didn't need to look at your chart and you didn't need to tell me because I can tell you're not from Gainesville. Like it's pretty obvious. But that's a weird thing. It's almost like there's peer pressure, right? You're like, oh, I got to get boobs. I got to whatever, So yeah, but Dallas definitely has that. You can see that. That is a bit of that's their vibe. I don't know. I guess whatever people want to do.
I remember there was just a hamburger joint, not like a fast food, but it was, probably like fresh patties and whatever, but they had valet parking.
Really? So weird. Yeah, you're making me have a memory of Calgary, which we could say is the Dallas of Canada. I don't know. Can we say that?
Probably. Yeah.
And at the time I was at a practice. It was a bad commute that I had to do. So I used to get up really early. I would get up at like 5 and I would go to the gym, and it was a fancy gym. I just went to the fancy gym because it was close to the hospital where I work. So I would get up at 5, go to the fancy gym and do a spinning class. And then I would go to work. That was good. It worked out. Like it just made my commute less miserable and I got workout in, but like I do spinning. So it was like this fancy spinning studio with lots of mirrors. And I'd be like leaned over on the bike. And it was just like every woman in line had fake boobs. Except for me. But it was very obvious because everyone was leaned over on their bike. Yeah. That was
which one of these is not like the others?
Yes. All right. I'm talking about my boobs.
And probably then there was a row of men behind.
Yeah, not that many men in that class at the time. I don't know, maybe it was just more of a feminine vibe to the classes the spinning classes I was doing. But yeah, then in the change room, it was just a lot of fake boobs, a lot of hairless women with Botox, fake boobs. That's just, and then I was like, no, yeah, I didn't fit in, but that's okay. I was just there doing my thing.
You got your workout.
Got my workout in. So it sounds like you still like chiropractic? Like, it sounds like you were drawn to it at 19, but you still like it. What do you like the most about being a chiropractor?
As I said, like why I went into it, because I like helping people.
Yep.
And so it's, it's rewarding when we like, as chiropractors, we often get a lot of like, you're my last resort, which is sort of a passive aggressive, I would never have believed in you, but since nobody else helped me, I'm here. I'm here now.
I didn't think of it that way, but yeah, you're the last. I didn't want to come to you. I tried everything else.
Yeah.
But now I'm here out of sheer desperation. Well, that's a good challenge.
So it's good when that happens, and then, they get better and their quality of life improves. And
oh, that's great.
So yeah, that feels good.
Yeah. All right. I'm not going to talk to you about my back, but I was thinking about you this morning. I was like, maybe I need to go see Michael. So what is the biggest challenge you think about being a chiropractor?
The same thing, I guess. It's, the negative stereotypes or the negative bit of information that's out there. A lot of, medical doctors still will tell patients not to go to a chiropractor.
Okay.
So
what...
That's
let's dig into that. What is out there that you think is that the public thinks or doctors think about chiropractors that's wrong?
That it's not safe.
Okay.
The stroke is a big one, but there's not been any, confirmed direct link with that. So okay,
and that's when it's out there because I've heard it too.
Yeah.
Getting your neck adjusted and then you die. Is that is that what happened? You're like, what?
Edit that part out.
No, but edit that out. No, but that's what is out there, isn't it? Or you have a stroke.
Yeah.
Because it.
Yeah.
So why? What? Where did it even come from? Do you know?
As I said, there's been a few cases, and most of, if not all of them, have been cases where there's a stroke in progress.
Oh.
And so just as easily, if they'd gone to the hairdresser and had their head extended over the sink, they would have, it just happened that they happened to go to the chiropractor.
Okay, well, I am going to pivot a little bit. As much as you're comfortable talking about it, you mentioned that you have a benign essential tremor. And I know you said it's part of why you kind of decided, okay, surgery or anything with kind of, I guess, fine motor skills as a requirement is not going to be something you're going to be able to pursue as a career. Can you just talk a little bit about what that is? And
Sure. Yeah. So it is, I believe it's related to cerebellum.
Ah, okay.
And which sort of controls and checks your hand movements. And so I guess it's an intention tremor, which means that if my hand's at rest, there's no tremor. And it's only when I go to move my hand that the tremor is present. Sometimes it's in my head as well. And so it's sort of the opposite of Parkinsonian tremor, which is a resting tremor. So.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that actually. Okay.
Yeah. So it's the opposite. So we've somebody with Parkinson's, their hands just resting on the table, then it starts going. But as soon as they go to move it, more early on in the progression, then it stops.
Okay. Okay. And you've had that, you were born with that, you've had that your whole life?
The earliest I remember it was around 12.
Okay.
Yeah. And my mom, she'll hate me for telling this story, but so when it first started, I was drinking and and she would get upset with me, stop playing around.
Oh no. So it's not funny, but it's a little bit funny.
It is funny.
She probably feels a little bad now. She's like, oh. No,
she does. She laughs about it too.
A true problem. So. Okay. Oh, what was the story you were going to tell me about phones being on Do Not Disturb?
Oh, I was in the landlord-tenant board. I have a case against a previous landlord.
Oh,
and I won't get into the details, but the place was sold. I was evicted because the new landlord said they were going to move in, and so they didn't. They put my place up with jacked up the rent by over $1,100.
Okay.
And anyhow, so we're in the hearing, and my friend, who is also a comedian, is my paralegal. And so we're in the hearing, and the adjudicator is sort of not really chewing out, but giving a good talking to the new owner. And so on my phone, I think it was a new phone, and I was playing with new notifications. And so I had the sad trombone, wow, wow, wow. And I forgot to turn the notifications off. And so just as she's giving it to this guy, all of a sudden you just hear, wow, wow.
Oh, amazing. Do people laugh or no?
No.
No. No.
No.
Okay. Not a landlord tenant for.
all of a sudden I got a message from Lorenzo saying like, that was good timing, but don't do that again.
Yeah. Hilarious. Oh, that's
I
hilarious.
was like, oops, forgot to shut off the notification.
The sad trombone is good. It's good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
So I changed the notification.
I want to put that on my phone right now. So I'm going to pivot over to stand-up. How long have you been doing stand-up comedy?
I've been doing it I'm really bad. Like, I don't remember the exact date. I think it's 11 years.
Okay. Well, sometimes it's hard too, because you don't.
Not sentimental about it.
Yeah, I'm not either. I totally get that. I maybe actually, now that I say that, you just made me have this thought. Like every time I go to a club and I'm meeting people, they're like, how long have you been doing it? It almost sounds like a challenge. Like, how good are you? Which is not how I meant it. But I just realized that I like to ask people that on the podcast. But now I have to think about that question. Because sometimes you don't know, or you tried it and then you didn't do anything with it and then went back to it or whatever. So so you've been doing it for a few years, so that's great.
And it was either late. My first set was either late August or early September.
Okay. All right. Well, so you didn't celebrate. So it's funny when people do that on social media. I find when they celebrate their anniversary, their comedy anniversary. I don't know mine. It's
same.
I don't know. I don't know mine, but I sort of know vaguely. And then the pandemic kind of messed up a lot of stand-up, I think, for a lot of people. Did you do stand-up during the pandemic?
I didn't do any like Zoom.
Okay.
But I did, when we had all the plexiglass up.
Oh, did you do it?
Yeah, I did a couple of those shows.
All right, what a weird time.
Once, I think once things were starting to open up, there was, half capacity.
Yes.
With the plexiglass. So I did.
Perfect for comedy, really, right? Having a barrier between you and the audience and keeping them far apart from each other, just ideal.
Yeah. Well, I remember like a joke that I would do, because there was like on the stage, right? There was like different, it wasn't like you were in a box, right?
Yeah.
So there was like one sheet here and then one sheet on the side and one sheet on the other side of the stage. So in between each sheet, there were these huge gaps, right? So I'd like point to the people directly in front of me and go, you're safe. And then the people on behind, you're safe and you're safe. But then on the corners, I go, well, you guys are screwed.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. There was a lot of things like that, I think, for the healthcare professionals among us who were doing comedy, and like the things they were doing to kind of be safe. I was like, no, like the little condom that they would put, that little thing they'd put over the microphone. I'm like, do you think that little, it had to be like breathable, because otherwise the microphone wouldn't work, and everyone was like carefully like putting it on, and then but you'd touch the whole rest of the microphone, and like people were, I was like, but you had to do it. It was like their protocol. Like it was like, I was like, okay, I don't think that's doing anything.
Or wear a mask walking to the stage and then take it off and do your set.
And then people were still drinking, right? Like
drinking and eating
and laughing. But then when they got up from their table, they were supposed to put their mask on. But when they were sitting there.
Oh, the best one was, as my daughter is in high school. And so I remember like she's very much into music. So I remember the first like performance that they were allowed to do this, for parents and stuff, that there were in the band, there were kids who had masks with a hole cut in it so that they could play their instrument.
So good. Yeah, that's great. That's not a science person who did that. That's an artist.
I feel like I'm on Joe Rogan right now. But
wish it was Joe Rogan. Wish my podcast was that popular. You have to be careful what you say about Joe Rogan. I made a joke about him once, and I got trolled. I was actually scared. It was just a joke about veterinarians and ivermectin and how he was taking ivermectin during the pandemic. And people, they came for me. And it was just a benign, silly joke about a horse vet and ivermectin and Joe Rogan. Like, it wasn't really anything too hardcore, but apparently his fans will defend him no matter what. I'm like, well, he's a comedian. I think we can make jokes. But all right, well, what was it that drew you to stand-up? Why did you start doing stand-up in the first place?
It was something that I think always wanted to do. Like I always loved watching it, and like, growing up in, the boom as a teenager in the 80s. Yeah. There were so many, there was like Caroline's Comedy Hour and the Evening at the Improv and all of these, shows. It was sort of like coincided with the, the expansion of cable. And so you had all these channels and each one had their own, stand-up comedy. And so I just was watching it all the time, and I loved, SCTV and Saturday Night Live and all of this comedy. couldn't get enough of it. And I found that, watching the show, anytime I was watching stand-up, just anticipating punchlines,
Yeah, that's
and
definitely a
so-
sign you should be doing it. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I'll acknowledge my older brother who introduced me to a lot of these different shows, like Dave Allen at Large. I don't know if you.
I know that I've heard of it, but I don't know it honestly. Yeah.
A lot of it, like a lot of British stuff, like Dave Allen
okay.
and the Two Ronnies, and all of these great comedy and sketch and just different sense of humor than we get here at Canada and the US. So that all, I guess, influenced me, but I was like deathly, afraid of public speaking. I would write stuff.
Okay.
And then I think I was like 20, 21, me and this friend would go to this open mic in Toronto like regularly and just say, okay, next time we're gonna sign up. But
Yeah.
they never did it.
Wow. Okay.
For like a few months we did that, and then we just kind of gave up on it. I was 42, around that age, and I don't know, something just clicked, and I was like, okay, it's time.
Yeah.
And then I went to an open mic, and I was like, I know I am at least funnier than most of the people on this show. So I did. The first set was, I know where it was.
Yeah. Where was it?
So it was a Monday night at Absolute Comedy. It's kind of like their open mic.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, so I did it, got laughs, and
Got hooked.
got hooked.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, you're kind of you do like, I don't know if you do some work with Absolute in Ottawa and Toronto.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's mostly where
you go. Yeah. I haven't
Where I
been
go.
to the Absolute in Ottawa, but the one in Toronto, I've done a few times, and it's a really fun club. I know you were just there. It's a really fun club to do. I find the audience is like really into it. Like,
Oh, the Ottawa one is that times 10.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. I don't know if I can.
You have
I don't
to
know.
get on a show.
I don't know
there.
if I can. A yuck girl now. I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. I'll just have to come watch you, which will also be really fun.
Sure. Tonight.
Oh, really? You're doing it tonight. What are you doing tonight? You're doing
Just an opening, I think 9 minutes.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Well, that's awesome. That's great. Cool. Okay. Well, what do you think's most challenging about stand-up comedy for you, or just in general?
I guess the one thing that I've had to work the most on is crowd work. But I feel I've had some improvement in there. I think that's also like just that fear of public speaking, but that's like to the nth degree,
Yeah, I think it's a different skill set doing crowd work. Like it's like the stand-up is one thing, it's the writing and the crafting and kind of performing, but then, reacting to the crowd, that's one thing, but then also just like pure crowd work of like talking to the crowd. Yeah, I think that's the area I could also improve on.
I guess the other challenge is having the tremors, and so like I feel like I always each set start off addressing it.
Right.
So I think in the last 11 years I probably have 45 minutes
Of material
like,
about it.
I don't want to keep doing the same
Yeah.
joke, so I've changed it a lot, but
Yeah.
I always start with something addressing that.
Yeah, I love that
And
you have
then-
45 minutes of material on that. That's
Probably.
I think I struggle sometimes with, I mean, it's good and bad, right? Like it's true, like people
Yeah.
are going to see that, then they're just going to get distracted, and who knows what people are thinking, right? But I have a mentor, I think his mentor told him this, but I have a mentor who says if they're thinking, they're not laughing. So like if they're like, oh, what, like anything about that they're thinking about you when you get up there. I joke around that I look like Ellen, because sometimes people think I look like Ellen, and so I like to make a joke about that. But I don't think I have a ton of stuff to like big openers of like, this is what you're thinking about me. I mean, I don't maybe think I look like a Karen, or I don't, that's getting kind of old, thank God. But yeah, I can see that being almost a blessing and a curse. Like it's a way to bring them onto your side and, be humble, or be, but it's also like, oh God, every time I've got to talk about this thing.
Yeah, and it like you said, kind of gets them on your side, or sort of disarms them.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's also because it's not, like other, I guess physical, I don't know, like to call it, but like a physical disability, because people don't, they might just think I'm nervous.
Totally. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I could see it. They think because I've had that when I'm public speaking, that like, in conference centers, the rooms are, especially if you're in the States, I find the big hotels and the big conference centers, like they're freezing, like they're
Freezing, yeah.
so cold. And so I'll get up to speak and I am like shaking because I'm cold, and I'm like, oh God, people probably think I'm nervous because like you can almost hear it in my voice. I'm like, and I'm like, yeah, they probably think I'm nervous because I'm speaking and I'm not. But yeah, so that's a funny thing. But yeah, I can see having to address it almost for two reasons. One is like to get them not to stop thinking about it or wondering. But then the other is you don't want them to think that you've been doing comedy for a long time. You probably don't get that nervous anymore, I imagine. I don't know. Do you get nervous? No. Yeah. I get a little nervous like the day before sometimes if it's a big show, but then when I'm actually up there, I don't feel nervous. I'm like, so go ahead.
Sorry, I have one more somewhat of a challenge.
Yeah.
When I first started, I would do some, material about being a chiropractor.
Yes.
And I got a complaint. Like there was
this is fascinating. Okay, tell me about this. Yes.
So I work at the clinic I work at. I'm an independent contractor. I don't own the clinic.
Yeah.
But sometimes we'll treat each other's patients. And so this was maybe my first or second year of doing it. And this patient came back to the owner because I guess I had treated her once or twice and said, oh, it's not professional that he's,
oh my God,
he's doing stand-up and representing which I'd never mentioned the name of, the clinic or whatever.
You just said I'm a chiropractor and then.
Yeah. And I have jokes about it. And then she even I guess what upset me the most is she got my joke wrong.
Right. Yeah. That is more offensive.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so interesting to me. So did that curtail you? Like, what did you do with that?
I didn't. I stopped doing. So recently, I guess I've started to bring some of it back in.
Oh, this is so interesting to me because when I first started doing stand-up, I didn't say I was a vet and I didn't change my name. I just talked to someone who actually, she's a veterinarian, and when she does comedy, she doesn't even use her name. She doesn't want, actually I know two veterinarians like that. Their comedy name is one name and then they use a different name for their professional life, which I've never done that, but I didn't get up and say, I'm a vet. I didn't mix them. And then I just found it was too hard to keep them apart. I worried what my clients would think, but I have found that my clients actually really like it because it's like they know that you have a life and that there's more than one dimension to you. And you're the first person on this podcast, the first person I've talked to about this who has had it's probably just one person, right? But someone has actually had a negative feeling. And I guess that's what we would call it. They felt like it was a negative thing that you do that. I don't even know what to say. Yeah,
so she said this was at Yuck Yucks, but when it used to be on Elgin, it was, in a basement and like every other club. Yeah. But she said that, it was just full of like drunken, university kids and blue collar,
Wow. You're not allowed to hang out with those people, apparently.
No.
Well, what the hell was she doing there?
And that's exactly. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it was a weird thing. And so I'll tell you the joke that
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So I said, that there's advantages to having the tremor. Like I've never had to buy an electric toothbrush. And I was married at the time. So I said, and ever since I've known my wife, she's never had to buy any batteries.
That's what she complained about?
Well, but she got it wrong because then, people kind of groan or laugh. And then I say, well, because her electric toothbrush takes batteries. I don't know what you guys were thinking.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But then so she said I made a joke about, getting my wife off with my shaky hands.
Oh, that's what she took from it.
Not the punchline of the joke.
You're like, that's not how I crafted my joke. Don't tell my joke. It's worse. Not only stealing your joke, but telling it wrong. Wow. Well.
And I had worse.
You are in I think that's always a little tricky, but I also think, you're going to stand-up comedy like at Yuck Yucks. So I'm sure Absolute's the same, but it's not like it should be all blue, but think about where you are. We're all adults. Like it's stand up. You're going to hear stuff like that because that's kind of just part of the genre of stand up. Not all comics, but a lot of comics are going to go into those kind of subjects. And that's not even that crazy. Wow. Well, I think it's on her. I wonder if she's listening to us. Lady who butchered Michael's joke. I think it's on you. I think it's on her because that's a pretty miserable thing to do, right? Because then she would have had to find out where you worked, right?
Well, no, she knew because I had
you had treated her. Okay. Yeah. All right. I don't know. Okay. Well, I don't know. And then I don't know what you do with that. It's interesting that it curtailed you, but now you're just, you know what? I do this and I do this. And I'm glad that you're doing jokes again about being a chiropractor.
Thank you.
But, gotta do whatever I've also had advice, audience doesn't like to know what you do for a living because you just start trying to create this fantasy that this is all you do. You don't need to work anywhere else, right? Because we're all just making so much money as comedians, so we don't.
In Canada.
Yeah. I've had a lot of people be like, are you retiring? I'm like, no.
Yes, same.
Not.
So are you just going to do comedy now and not do comedy?
Yeah, never eat.
What if I want to eat?
Exactly. Oh, dear. Okay, well, I think this is a great time. We're going over to your clip.
So I've come up with this new idea for an app where all you do is just put all your shit on there. Just get it out of the way right off the bat. So now you scroll through there and you're like, oh, what can I just tolerate in another human being? It's going to be different requirements, right? So we want specific pictures on this app. One picture we want to see is of your toilet paper roll. Another one has to be your browsing history. There's got to be some videos, specific videos we want on there. One video is of you chewing. The other video we want to see is you loading the dishwasher. That shit will cause divorce. Different questions, right? We want to ask on this app, like, do you breathe through your mouth or your nose? Typically they ask you unimportant stuff like, what is your education level? And then they have the drop-down menu. So on my app, what I want to know is, what is your intelligence level? So the drop menu now is, which of these are you most likely to believe is true? The earth is flat. Birds don't exist. This is the Leafs' year.
Okay, I want to get into something very controversial that you brought up.
Okay.
Loading the dishwasher.
That is controversial, yes.
Your stance on this?
I am one who gets frustrated when people don't load it properly.
Same, Michael. Same.
That people just throw stuff in willy-nilly and you can fit so much more stuff in there.
Okay, what is your stance on cutlery? This is important. Do you organize it?
Cutlery, not so much.
Okay,
I'm not so concerned about the cutlery because it has its own separate.
Oh, so your issue is more space. Economy of space is your
economy of space.
Okay, I take it to the next level. I like economy of space, but even more, I need it to be easy to unload. And so I'm just throwing this out there to our listeners. Save you seconds a day. You unload your dishwasher. If you put all the cutlery that is a family together, all the forks, all this, if you put them all together, it's very quick to unload. So my husband does not agree with this.
That's too much.
Is that next level?
Because you're saving time in the back end, but
I don't know. It doesn't take, well, I don't know, Michael, we'll have to do some research, just like you said.
Yeah, well, pull out the stopwatch.
People fight about this, though. People really fight about this. The other one that people fight about is rinsing the dishes before you put them in. There's a whole camp of I'm in this camp. I'm a rinser. And other people, it's just dirty and they just stick it in the dishwasher. Where do you stand on this controversy?
I rinse, but I'm not anal about it.
Okay. That's probably the reasonable.
It's like people who clean their house before the cleaning lady comes over.
Yeah, my husband says that. Actually, we don't have a cleaning lady right now, but when we did, he would say, we're cleaning for the cleaners. All right.
My mom used to do.
I noticed you're quite personal about your comedy. That's why I felt comfortable talking about your essential tremors, because you talk about it in your comedy and you talk about the fact that you're recently single. So I don't know if you can talk a little bit about how do you do what's your writing process? What do you like to share when you're talking about comedy? How do you create a joke, I guess?
This is something I not that I struggle with, but I don't really have a process.
Okay.
And this is another reason why I think I got into comedy, because I would just get these random thoughts, and be like, oh, that would make a good joke. Or, I'll see something and think it's, it's weird. And then it's all in my head. I've tried to sit down and write, but I just get stuck.
Okay.
So I just work through stuff mostly in my head.
And then you just get up and do
It's
it? Or do you write?
God is sending me
I love it.
these jokes.
I love it. That's like the really, the really famous musicians, incredible musicians. They're just like, I'm a conduit. You're just a conduit of laughter. I love it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, God likes a good dick joke.
Apparently. So a joke like just pops in your head. Are you going to remember it, or do you need to get it down or record it? What do you do?
I've started to write them down.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's been times where I'll think of something. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Right? And then later I'm like, what was?
I hate that. It's the worst.
And I can't remember.
Okay, and then do you write down just a little idea and then get on stage, or do you actually write it all out once you have that?
No, I work it out in my head. I just play with it in my head.
And then just get up. You're like, I'm going to tell a joke about dishwashers. I'm going to tell a joke about dating apps. And then you have a thought like, okay, this is kind of funny. And then you just get up and you do it. Okay. See, I'm the opposite of that. So I'm really fascinated by people who do that. I've had funny stuff just come out, because I'm not trying to just do that, but I'll just think of a tag or think of something, or the audience makes me think of something. And then I'm like, oh, I need to remember that because that was kind of funny. But I don't just get up and with 5 ideas and just riff. I think it makes the thought of that makes me nervous, actually. Yeah.
So I don't really riff.
Okay.
As I said, I'll just work it in my head.
Okay. And then you just know that's what you're going to do.
I'll remember it. And
okay.
And sometimes, I can't decide, which way to go with it.
Yeah.
Then I'll sort of just try it on stage and see. And the other thing I'm really bad at is recording myself. So, yeah.
So then, let's say you came up with some new jokes and then you went on stage and I guess you didn't riff them, but you just worked them out in your head, and then you're like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. And you did it. And then will you do the same thing again? If you let's say you had a new joke and it worked really well, you just keep that, or you write that down, or how do you catalog things once it's working?
It's all in my head.
It's all in your head. Are you kidding me? Really?
Yeah.
All in your head.
Yeah.
You don't have a
It's
file.
all in my head. I have a book, and some, as I said, sometimes I'll try to sit down and work through some new stuff, but I find I can do that better just in my head. And so
amazing. Okay. I love it. I mean, there's so many different ways to do this, right? But I could never do that. I can keep it in my head. I would worry that it would go out of my head, or that I would forget. I don't know. I would just worry so much. It's making me worry right now.
So as I said, like an idea, when an idea comes now, I write the idea down. Yes. So I don't forget it. But most of the time I it just at random times, like a tag will just, oh, fuck. Yeah. That's
I love it. I write jokes sometimes about things I don't even want to write jokes about. They just pop in my head. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do with that. So I just write it down and hope I can find a place for it. But I don't know. Anyway, that's fascinating to me. I love that. All right. I have a question to ask. I don't actually know this because I don't know that many chiropractors. I guess I don't know any chiropractors. Like, is there a lot of stress? Is there a lot of burnout? I mean, most of the healthcare professions are experiencing some level of compassion fatigue and burnout. And I actually don't know if that's a problem in chiropractic. So maybe you can speak to that. And then the second part of the question is like, do you think comedy can help your profession, if they're experiencing a lot of stress?
Well, I'll answer the second question first. Okay. And I think comedy can help any profession.
Perfect. Yes, of course.
Yeah, because I think, laughter is the best medicine and whatever. I think burnout also happens in every profession. I don't know a lot of, as I said, like it can be rewarding, and so I don't know a lot of chiropractors who have burnt themselves out.
Okay.
I think again, like back to your question of the challenge, I think. In our profession, I think because, we're fighting against the negative stereotypes and misunderstanding or the lack of knowledge of the medical doctors around chiropractic, is that a chiropractic practice, I think, is more a business than some other healthcare professions, right? Because we're always like a medical doctor, especially now, like a GP, just even a rumor about one and they're going to be fully booked.
Yeah.
But, so we're always working to build and maintain, right? Because we always need new patients coming in. So I think that's a challenge that can be frustrating.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I don't have a GP here. If anyone's listening, wants to take care of me.
Like, so
That'd be great.
the marketing side of it.
That you need to do. Yeah, I guess it's partly to get clients and then partly to combat some of those negative stereotypes that are out there about your profession. So,
yeah.
Okay, so here's my next question. Okay, if you could do comedy full time, you'd make the same amount of money. I know we were joking we're in Canada, so it's just a hypothetical, but you give up medicine, give up chiropractic, and do comedy full time, you make the same amount of money. So it wouldn't affect your lifestyle, or, I know you have a daughter, so it wouldn't affect her lifestyle. Would you give it up, or would you keep doing both?
Well, she's going to university next year, so I probably wouldn't see her much. I would keep doing both, but I would switch the ratio.
Okay.
And, probably do chiropractic more on a part-time basis and comedy more.
Yeah. Okay. I like that answer. Yeah.
Right. Because it's hard to, take a week off. Like last week, I had to take a week off to go do a week in Toronto. Yep. Right. So like going, trying to do comedy outside of Ottawa, it's tough.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that. I'm still trying to find it. I'll let you know if I find it. Okay. Do you have anything you want to promote, or do you post, like if people want to come and see you do comedy, is there somewhere that you post that?
I'm really bad at it.
Okay. That's okay.
Like people, it's funny, like this just happened in Toronto, people are like, hey, what's your social?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I might have to pull out my phone and look up my Instagram.
All right. Do you want
which I'm going to do right now because
you want us to include it? We don't have to, because everyone uses Instagram very differently.
I'm trying to start.
Okay, then let's do it. We'll start here. We're going to put it as a link.
Okay. It is.
I think I have it because I think is that how I found it?
Yeah, it is Dr. Micheal 71, my Instagram.
Okay. We'll put it in our show notes. People want to follow you. And then this will maybe inspire you to get better at posting your shows so people can come out and see you.
Well, I'm going to be hosting at Absolute here in Ottawa.
Is that So You Think You're a Comic thing?
Nope.
No.
That's
just a week
they do
of
that
shows?
in the summer.
Oh,
that's just, I'm going to be hosting the host for the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Tuesday to Sunday.
Are you going to work in the day and host at night?
Yep.
Oh, you're going to be tired, but it'll be fun. That'll be good.
Yeah.
I try really hard. I'm going to fail next week, but I try really hard not to do comedy on days when I'm working, because I just find it's like I get too worried that someone's going to need help or a dog's going to come in late in the day. And I'm like, no, I have to leave at this time. Like maybe you probably have more control of your schedule than I do, but I worry that I'm just going to be rushing around or stressed or whatever. So I try to be like, I don't care. I just want to be like, when I'm working as a vet, I don't care how long I'm there. I don't care if I get off early. I don't care if I stay late. I don't care, because I'm not trying to do anything else that day. And then when I have my days where I have to do my comedy, I'm like not thinking about being a vet. It doesn't work perfectly, but I'm trying, because I think it's hard sometimes to mix the two. But
for me, my office, my house, and both, Absolute and Yuck Yucks are all within, I can get from my place to either club in 10 minutes.
Okay.
So it's
good.
It's easy.
That's the beauty of Ottawa.
Yeah.
Compared to Toronto. Toronto's a little trickier to get around. So that's good. All right. We are at the last question. You already know what it is.
All right.
So this is just for Ken. It's not for me. It's not for our listeners. But if you could please speak directly to Dr. Ken Jeong and invite him to come and be a guest on Comedicine.
Ken Jeong. Get over yourself.
That's it.
Oh, look how big I am now. Mr. Dr. Big Shot. Too good to come on a great podcast.
All right. I like it. He just got his Hollywood star. He's getting it this week, I think. So now the chances of him coming are diminishing even further. But that's okay. I will not give up. I'll not give up. I'm going to keep asking until he comes on the show. All right. Well, Michael, thank you. I'm so glad to meet you on this platform. I can't wait to meet you in person around Ottawa, around the comedy scene. And thank you so much for being a guest on Comedicine.
It's been my pleasure. This was a lot of fun.
And that wraps up another episode of Comedicine. Thank you so much for listening. It is great having you here. If you have been listening to Comedicine from the beginning, thank you. If you're new to Comedicine, thank you and welcome to our Comedicine community. It is wonderful to have you here. I want to just give a shout out to Mark Edwards, who wrote the music for Comedicine. He's a comedian, an actor, a musician. He's going to be famous, you guys. And then you'll be like, is that the same Mark Edwards? And I'll be like, yeah, He's my friend, you guys. I know him. And he wrote the song. He's amazing. Also, big shout out to Dustin Bays. Thank you for editing the show and producing it. I appreciate you because I don't know how to do that stuff and I don't want to learn. Yes, it's willful ignorance, I think, at this point, but I'm so glad Dustin is here with me, helping me out with the show. And thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please like it, share it, do all the things, review it. If you're a sponsor or a potential sponsor, call me. That would be great. If you don't like the show, I don't know why you're still here. I just want to give a quick shout out to our season 5 sponsor, ScribeNote. ScribeNote is the first AI scribe in veterinary medicine, and it's amazing. If you are not using an AI scribe, you guys, you got to get on it. Check out ScribeNote. ScribeNote was founded in March 2023. It's a pretty amazing story. Katie is a veterinarian. Her brother Ryan, who's an engineer, was following her around at work, and he recognized, hey, you vets, you're so inefficient. You're doing everything twice, sometimes 3 times. Let me help you with that. I've used ScribeNote in the exam room. I'll just bring it into the room as an app on my phone, and I just let the clients know, and then I can talk to it and basically tell ScribeNote what I'm finding during my physical exam. It records it, it summarizes it, it's all there. If I have to hop to another appointment right away, it doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about remembering it all. ScribeNote's got me covered. It's also been fantastic for me for when I'm calling a client and I need to record that conversation because, we got to record everything now. If I have a 20-minute conversation, after that, I have another 20 minutes of typing. But now, no more because of ScribeNote. So thanks, ScribeNote. Everybody check it out. I promise it'll make your life better. They have already helped with 2 million notes to date. That's millions and millions and millions of minutes that we get back. Thanks, ScribeNote.